Alright guys, how you doing tonight? It's TC Mate with TC Gaming coming at you with another Synty Polygon review. I wanted to go ahead and get this out to you. As I've been doing for the last couple of nights, Synty Store's having a lockdown sale, 50% off top 3D assets for the month of May. Again, I have a lot of these content packs that I've purchased, as I've been developing. So I just wanted to share them with you guys in case you saw something in there, give you a little deeper look into them, in case you had questions. That's why I'm doing these as a live stream, so that they're a little bit more interactive on the odd chance that somebody pops in. But last night when I was wrapping up my live stream, I actually ended up buying the Apocalypse pack, and I think I purchased the Gang Warfare pack. So I had said that I was going to wrap this up on probably tomorrow. Excuse me, with the last couple of packs, but actually it might go a little bit longer. It might go into Friday. Tonight we are doing the City, Farm, and Town packs. So they are right here. There's the Farm pack, currently on sale for $25. The City pack currently on sale for $10. And the Town pack currently on sale for $25. And I also have the Heist pack in there as well. So we'll pull some of that up and we'll see how that's looking inside of there. So without dragging it on too much tonight, I'm going to probably pop through this pretty quick and then get out of here. But I want to go ahead and get that rolling for you. So let's go into our Unreal Engine. I already had that open. And we'll go right into Polygon City. And we'll go right into the maps for the overview. This will be the first one. I'll have to shut my Unreal Editor off when it pops up here in a second. So, what I do normally is I do like a little, back it up a little bit and let you kind of get an overview of what you're getting in that package. Just zoom out some. And then I'll kind of go down into the area a little bit better and roll through it. So this one is the Polygon City pack. And in here you get quite a few cars. A couple different styles of car. I don't remember if these had different texture packs in them or not. Get a couple of people, random citizens. Got some police officers, business guy down there, it looks like. Probably somebody from a legal team. Let's see. Get some signs. Some props for, making for buildings. Billboard type stuff, maybe. A couple of billboards back there. Same thing with the cop and the donut. Nice. Little subtle humor in there for you. But like again, yeah, as I said the other night, when you go through these packs and everything, if you just look at the sheer number of assets that you're getting for the price that you pay, and these things are all super compatible with each other. They all look good with other versions of their kits and packs. Every once in a while you run into a little bit of an issue, but I think they're cleaning it up. I used to run into some problems here and there with some of the collision meshes, and I don't think it's their fault. I think it's just the way that Unreal Engine tries to interpret the things that are coming in, and it kind of redraws the collisions and sometimes puts them in spots you don't really want them to be in. So I can show you a little bit about that. I did a video on it a long time ago for another purpose, but it's really the same solution, which is that for these things, since they're so the polygon count in these things are not real high, you can actually get away with the process that's called use complex as simple for your collisions. And I can show you that in the editor here in a minute. But it's not recommended for something that's got a lot of assets in it and a bunch of polygons and stuff because of the way that it actually works. But for some of these more simplistic assets, it certainly shouldn't be that big of a deal depending on the size of your world. If your world's really, really big, you'd probably be better off just making collision meshes and boxing out some of your areas and making it so that you could pass through others. You could do it with collision planes and things like that. A lot of games will do that. They'll have an asset that doesn't actually have collision on it, and then they'll just put up a collision mesh that's transparent, and you think you can't walk through the area. If you look at the action RPG game, that's a good example of that. The mountains and the cliff walls and all that kind of stuff that are in that game, they don't actually have any collisions on them, but you're tricked into feeling like they do because you can't walk through them, and that's the reason why they have a collision box there. So I do that sometimes for different like triggers and switches and stuff where they don't have their own collisions. But anyway, it's just been kind of zooming around here in the background, kind of see what's going on here. If you get a thing that you want to zoom in on, if you happen to pop in, just let me know. But for the most part, I'm thinking that you'll be able to just slow the video down or pause it and take a look at the assets that are in there. Kind of draw your own conclusions about what you got here. So that is the Polygon City overview. We'll do a demonstration scene real quick. Walk around a little bit. Kind of see these things as they're put into context a little bit better. And while that's loading, you close this thing out in the background when I accidentally restarted. And I'm going to let those shaders compile while we're playing in the level. I'll just put this on to F11. Kind of zoom it out. So this is actually inside of the demonstration map. You'll see here as this thing continues compiling these shaders, this all brighten up, and you'll see steam coming out of these and everything. I'm not sure where all it's compiled yet, but you can kind of look around in here. But one of the things that's really nice about these Synty Studio assets is that they do a lot of setup for you. So they give you kind of the context of how everything works out, and you could literally grab these things, duplicate a couple of these, change some assets on them real quick. Like make a couple copies of this, link them together, change out some of the cars in each area, and make yourself a pretty big map pretty fast. And some of these things are modular to where you could actually put them into a generator that would kick out randomized levels for you and things like that. If you watch Ali Akbar's Dungeon Architect video, I believe he uses some of the Polygon Synty Space and Synty City packs to make some of those things. So I see a couple people, popping through, taking a look here. Again, if you have any questions about anything, feel free to leave a message in the text there. I got my chat pulled up so I can see it. And waiting on these last compiles for shaders here. But basically what I do is I run through all the different asset packs, kind of give you an overview, and then we do a little bit of a, gaming thing at the end. I might do a little bit about how to get more animations for these Synty characters. Somebody had mentioned the other night in one of the other videos that they were looking for an easier way to do that, and I have covered it in quite a few videos in the past, but it never hurts to go back over something real quick. So anyway, that's the city area. You saw most of the stuff in the other thing, so I don't know if we need to wait for all these shaders to compile. I don't want to suck up a bunch of video time, but we can go back through that if we have to, if somebody has questions about it. So I'm going to go into the city character. This is a different package. The first one was Polygon City. This is city characters. And on the overview map on these are just some of the inhabitants that you could put into the city. Just additional characters that are in there that are kind of styled to work in some of the buildings that are there and just be random citizens. That pack's pretty inexpensive. I don't even think it was like more than maybe $8 or $10 or something right now with it on sale. But that's that. And then Polygon Farm. Let's go in there and we'll pull up the overview for that. That's a pretty big package. And while that's loading there and compiling the last little bit of shaders, I'll show you something I found out last night when I went to check out. I was buying the Gang Warfare package, and then I told you I ended up buying the Apocalypse pack also. But we'll go through those in a little bit. But when I was checking out, I realized that they actually have these asset bundles that are sitting in here too. So you can even get a deeper discount if you're buying these as a full bundle. For example, the Polygon Apocalypse pack is normally $299. So right now it's on sale for like $150. But if you buy it in part of a bundle, you actually get an extra 10% off of the sale price. If you get it with the city, zombies, and the battle royale, which kind of support the overall theme of that, they kind of go together. So it's a pretty decent buy. And like I said, you're getting these at 10% off of each asset. So really, you're getting 60% off of the overall price of those things. And they put these together into bundles that kind of make sense. Like I did last night, the Sci-Fi City and the Space. I didn't even realize they had these, but it just made sense to me to feature the assets that way because that's what I had. but they have them bundled up. So you got Sci-Fi City and Space as a bundle. You got the Dungeon Pack Maps and Knights Pack as a bundle. We went through those. You got Fantasy Rivals, Fantasy Characters, and there's another Fantasy Character Pack here, which I'm not sure why they called them the same thing. One's modular, so it's actually modular Fantasy Heroes. The other one's just called Fantasy Characters Pack. I have all of these, but I'm not going to go through those, I don't think, because I'm really more interested in showcasing these larger things that have overviews and maps in them. Right now we're looking at City and Town and City Characters Pack. I also have the Heist in there and the Farm Pack that I threw in there as well. And now they're doing Polygon Crime Bundle, so Heist is actually in here with Gang Warfare and the Spy Kit. That makes sense as well. And we already talked about Adventure Pack and Vikings Pack. I think I have the Samurai Pack. We can go through that if we want to, but again, these bundles are in here, and you just go to their homepage and go under Asset Bundles. And typically, the reason I like to buy directly from these guys is because you're purchasing their direct effort without putting a middleman in there taking some money off the top. The other thing is you get the Unity and the Unreal package, and you get the source files. So for those people who are looking for additional assets, the reason that's a big deal for you to get those source files is because you can actually go in here to the meshes, and inside of your meshes, you're going to have characters. So you can take one of these character meshes and you can export this out. So if you go to Asset Actions and go to Export, it's going to give you the option to send this out as an FBX file. Well, that FBX file, you can load that into Mixamo, and Mixamo will rig up a skeleton for that based on the mesh, and then you can apply packs to that, or even individual animations if you don't want to use the packs, but I recommend the packs because it's a real quick way to get it. And then you can download pack after pack after pack of Mixamo animations that are rigged to a Synty skeleton for your characters, and it's a real quick way to get tons of those assets. So I'll show you real quick. I don't want to spend a bunch of time in this. We're going to keep on doing these feature overviews rather. But on my Google Drive, and you guys obviously don't have access to this portion of my Google Drive. There are things on there you do have access to that are things that you can have. But in my Synty folder, here's what I did: Synty Mixamo animations. So a long time ago, I went out. This was back in August of last year. I went out and I got the Action Adventure Pack, the Basic Locomotion Pack, the Shooter Pack, so on and so forth. So if you go into Mixamo with a Synty character and upload that and type in the word pack, these will all pop up, and you can individually download each one of these. So I don't even know what the count of these is in here, but if you just look as I'm scrolling down through there, every one of these packs has, a handful of animations in each one of it. So I've got all of those that are rigged on a Synty skeleton for my characters. And last night, or 2 nights ago, maybe I showed in a live stream that the other thing you can do is if you go into the Unreal Engine and you go into the permanently free collection, in the permanently free collection, they have a thing in here that's called the Advanced Locomotion System. You can actually just type it in here, Advanced Locomotion. And whoops, it helps if you actually type in the box, Advanced Locomotion. And see, the Advanced Locomotion is also in that permanently free collection now. And inside of here, this thing has, I don't know if they talk about it in here or not, but this thing has a bunch of animations that are already set up. So I show you in that other video, it's like 2 nights ago, how to basically take this free package and leverage all of the animations and assets out of there onto your Synty character, which you could then theoretically put into any of the other games that you're building using their packages and everything. We're working on trying to get the Advanced Locomotion System ported over to work also with Dynamic Combat Systems, so it'll be an ALS DCS combo pack, and then target all those to a Synty character. And that process is pretty close right now. I got some more things to do with some of the montage assignments in the data tables, and then I think it's actually going to work. But I'll let you know if it does. Obviously, that'll be something that we put on here. So anyway, going back to this is probably compiled by now. So here's the overview for the farm pack. And I'll go through that process of retargeting some of those animations probably at the end of this video if you guys are sticking around. If not, pop back later or tomorrow, or check out any of the videos that are on my stream in my channel. I try and label them pretty clearly so that you know what you're getting. But they've got a bunch of trees here, low poly trees. There's some dirt mounds, like rows for farming and dropping off seeds and everything. And you also have some fences and barrels and farm equipment. You've got some different visual effects in here, all kinds of vegetables and things like that. These things are great for like harvesting and gathering games or survival type games. You can play with those in there. And I actually did a video where I was talking about the multiplayer survival game template or MSGT. And in the MSGT video, I used Synty resources with the multiplayer survival game template. And there was a package in there that, let me go to my channel real quick. There was a package in there that is very inexpensive, but it was pretty cool because it actually gives you this farming system thing. So if you get a chance, go back and check this video out. The farming system, you can go in there and assign some of your Synty icons as the things that people will see in their menu. And when they plant them, they actually harvest those pieces of whatever it is that you've planted, the final grown version of it, like you're seeing in this map right here. So if you were, for example, you wanted to plant like, whatever these things are down here, you could plant these as seeds and have them grow the full grown vegetables. And then in that game thing, you can harvest these and they'll end up in your inventory. And then, of course, you could use them for different things, if you understand the way that that's all wired up for programming. But I think there's actually a system in there that can manage some of that inside of the multiplayer survival game template. So check that video out if you're curious about maybe some of the ways you can use these. But again, you got like different plants and vegetables and stuff here. Got a nice little greenhouse, a couple of barn areas, a couple different styles of barns, silos, water towers. There's a nice windmill, and you can, pretty sure all these things here, if you click on these, it'll show you in the editor. So you can right click on this and say browse to asset, and then when you double click on these, it'll actually take you into the asset where you can look at it a little bit. So you can see that that's actually a two-part component. I clicked on the bottom portion of it. The top of it is its own little thing, the windmill blades, which should be over here somewhere. And then there's small props, large props. Well, what you can do with these things, since they're individual components, is you can actually put a rotator on there and have this thing spin to look like it's actually being blown by the wind. So these are all, a lot of these things are animated or animatable. I don't know if that's a word, or able to be animated, I guess I should say. So they give you a lot of different options for that. So let's go and move into, let's see, we did Polygon Farm. We did that as the overview map and the, did I give you the demo of that? I don't think I did. Let's do demonstration map real quick. I just like you to see these in the, as they're all put together, because when you see them, the way that these guys lay out a scene for you and give you all these ideas, I mean, just this thing's like teeming with life out here. So it's a really, really cool package if you're building this type of game, I almost feel like you're going to see the Dukes of Hazzard roll by, I don't know if you guys are, I don't know how old anybody is out there, if you've ever seen the Dukes of Hazzard. But I'm in my late 40s, so when I was a kid, that was all that was on TV. You had 3 channels, and you had to use rabbit ears and aluminum foil to get those in. But you guys probably don't know what rabbit ears are. Let's see. Then if the wind was blowing too hard, you'd have to climb up on the roof and hold an antenna so your dad could watch the football game or something. But here's your farm, a little bit laid out like an actual working farm. It's just beautiful assets. Trying not to linger on these too long here. But I mean, you see they made a big giant area, tons of farm. Pretty cool. All right. So let's get out of that one, and we'll go on to the next package in here. That was Polygon Farm. And we're going to go into, I should have covered Polygon Heist while we were looking at the city, but I'll just cover it here. I'm just going down the list so I don't forget anything. Here's the overview map for that. Let's zoom that out real quick. So gives you a lot of nice little assets for this one. This actually has some pretty cool stuff in it too. There's like, look down here, you got like stacks of money, jewelry display cases, different masks, and loot bags and all that kind of stuff. Different tools to to break into a bank with. pull your heist job. You got a couple different nice little weapons in here. SWAT vehicle. Different interchangeable heads with the masks on them. Police choppers and cars. Vault. Prison bars. Different steps to get up into second levels and buildings and stuff. And there's your safety deposit boxes. So pretty cool stuff. That thing right there has a problem with the collision mesh on it. We'll see here in a second. If we go into F11 here, we go into the demonstration of this, and this is where they actually laid a scene out. So let's hit Alt-P to play it. And I'll just walk around in here. But again, like I said, they do a lot to just give you something in context. Now out here, you can see that's the money bank. And this is just a very small little demonstration area, so you just drop this into another spot to use it. And this looks a little washed out. The reason it looks a little washed out is because of if you go to show post-processing, I have the eye adaptation turned off here, but it also shows up in your camera. When I turn it on, you can see it gets a little bit brighter. So one of the ways that you can fix that is if you go into the character, so third person character blueprint, and inside of there you've got a camera boom, and I think it's either in the camera boom or might actually be in the camera itself under follow camera, post processor lens, exposure, min brightness and min max, or min brightness and max brightness rather. If you take both of these and set them to the same value, which I'm going to use 1 for both of these, and if you read the description on this when you hover over it, it tells you that if you set them at the same, if min equals max, then it's disabled. So I'm disabling that, and then that way when I compile it and go back and run it, my lighting, whoa, look at that. Let's go back up here. I was standing off the edge of that thing when I hit play. But my lighting in here should be based now on the lighting in the map instead of that eye adaptation thing. So if I hit Alt-P again, it's just a little bit darker than what it was a minute ago in here. It looks a little bit better to me anyway. Might not translate over to the screen for you guys, but here we go. We got our bank window, a couple of ATM machines. This was that scanner I was saying. There's a little bit of a problem with the collision mesh on here, so you can't get through that way right now, but I'll show you how to fix that in just a second. Just kind of giving you a run through. Again, you guys can slow the video down later, go back through and look at it, pause it, whatever you want to do to kind of zoom in on these things, but I'm just giving you like the 30,000 foot view, so to speak, of what's going on here. Here's all those safety deposit boxes with the money laying out on the table and everything. All right. Pretty cool asset pack. And what I'll do real quick is I'll go fix this. Show you how to fix it. So if you grab a hold of this asset, just click on it. It'll show up in your thing over here. You just go down and say browse to assets. So there's your small prop metal detector. And I edit these at the level here. So if you go in here and want to click on the simple collision and the complex collision, you'll find in here in some cases that the collision mesh actually is in the way. Now with this one it looks like it's been corrected, but my guess is that my character is actually a little too big. So if I had to fix the collision, if the collision was jacked up on here, what you would do, I can show you some that are that way actually with the cars. I can go and get those because the cars have simple collisions on them, so you can't actually get down into the car. But let's say that this had a simple collision where the collision mesh was over top of that. And it actually might be. I don't know. It's hard to tell. It looks like maybe it is that green box there. Yeah, I think the collision is actually in the way. So see that collision right there? If I don't show that one, but I show the complex collision, take simple off. Now there's no line there. There's no collision mesh in front of that. So the solution to this is if you go over here to the asset, there should be, see if it's in here. Where'd it go? Over here, if you scroll down, there's going to be collision and then collision complexity. And you open this up and you say use complex collision as simple. So what that literally is doing is taking this complex collision, which is more detailed and contoured around the object, and using that as the simple collision also. So instead of just having a box around it with simple collision, you now have the same collision choice, which is the complex collision. And then some of the documentation, the way that they used to do it, I don't know if it's the same now, but the way that they used to do this is that the object would be duplicated, be rendered once as a mesh, and the second time as a collision mesh, and then just stacked on top of each other, so you get a one-for-one swap there on that. But basically, if you update that at the level here, it'll update every instance of that in the world. If I only changed it on this one particular thing, it would still have a problem if I brought a new one out here. So we'll hit play and we'll see if that fixed anything that I can now walk through there. I think I can. Yeah. So see that collision, by making that use complex as simple, I can now walk through there. So hopefully that helps somebody. That's a nice little tip. I covered that in another video, and I think my video is actually called "Using Complex Collisions for Simple for Simple Objects." But figured that out the long way. So again, just a beautiful asset pack, pretty inexpensive overall. And I'm going to go on to the next one. So let me zoom out here a little bit. Actually, I wanted to show you, we can do the same thing with the vehicle. They're not in this vehicle set. I'll probably find them in Polygon Town or Polygon City. Let's go to the maps for this. I'll show you that collision thing again, I'm sure. We'll save all those changes. And again, I'm just bundling these up in a way that makes sense to me. And it turns out that the Synty store has them in a similar way also for their overall thing there. And I'm actually just going to zoom out with my camera. I don't want to run around in that big level. But you can see you got all kinds of different roadways and some trees, fence lines, a couple of plants. Not sure what those are. Probably just little pieces of grass here and there. Kid's treehouse. I never saw that up in there before. Crazy. But you got all these different roadway objects. Some people. Again, you guys can slow these down, pause them as you see fit. I'm just trying to get through them so we can move on to other stuff. And I don't want to tie you guys up all night just watching me scroll around these maps. I'll set it here for a second. Kind of give you the overview of all the different stuff that's in there. Little playgrounds, stuff. I mean, this is really a nice little pack. And I'll show you something else that's pretty cool once I get into the thing. I don't know if it's in this pack or the city pack. Let's go down in here. Got all kinds of just little accessories and stuff. For the price you're paying for these things, I mean, it's just unreal the amount of stuff that you're getting with this. And it's all high quality stuff. And it all, like I said, it all fits together. You know, it's all, I could drop this pack in with the city pack, you know, the town pack, the city pack, the city people, the zombies. They all just fit together. Looks like this has an interior in it. Yep. So it's pretty cool stuff. I say that a lot, but I really believe it. There's some more houses and stuff back there, and I'm going to make the assumption that a lot of these buildings are interior. So, as I was saying last night, you can take some of these and turn them into use them for other kits or whatever, then just change the textures on them to make them fit into whatever you're doing. And you can use other resources with these that are of a low poly nature. And some of them look pretty good. So let's go into the demonstration map. I think this is where I was talking about. Let me see here. What's that say? Pawn transaction. So here's what I wanted to show you guys. A couple different things, and we can do it with these. Let me put a character in here and run around. I'm actually going to show you two things. One, because I think this is fairly important. I actually found the one last place on the planet right now where you can get toilet paper, and it's in this little convenience store right here. Look at that, they got a couple rolls. I don't know if I can snag those and ship them to you guys. Maybe email them to you or something like that. But there they are if you need them. It's over here in Synty Town. But what I want to show you is on the collision mesh thing. So if I jump up on this truck, you would think I'd be able to stand in the bed of that truck, right? Well, the reason I can is because that thing has a simple collision mesh wrapped around it instead of a complex collision mesh. And I believe that that is a byproduct of how Unreal Engine just brings things into the world and tries to, interpret what they are. It doesn't know that this is a truck. It just knows it's some kind of a solid object. So what you can do to fix these, again, I'm going to hit the escape key. I'm going to go out and grab a hold of that. I see my vehicle over here. I'm going to browse to that asset. And then I would go into that vehicle, which is, where did I just have it? Vehicle. That's right there. It's just got a different skin on it. I'm going to grab that pickup and go in here. And if I show, where are we at? I should have seen, where's the, that might be right here then. Yeah, some of these, the collisions are in different spots. Maybe I'm lying to you about this. I'd have to go look at that now. That collision mesh, normally when I double click on one of these, it takes me into the asset where I can actually change the collision, but I don't see collision parameters on here. Maybe somebody else knows. Maybe we did it on the other one. I'll go back and watch that process. It should be the same thing, but I'll see if I can figure this out. I'm not gonna do it right this second, but generate overlap events. No, could even be with my capsule, but I doubt that. I don't think my capsule is big enough to warrant that kind of a setup or that kind of behavior. But I'll take a look at that and I'll fix it. And I'll do another follow-up to this. With some of the objects, it's just a matter of changing the collision mesh on it. And I don't know what the difference is. This is probably a skeletal mesh versus something being like a, whatever it was in that Polygon Heist thing. Let's go in there and see what that was, what type it was. That would have been... environment, maybe. I got my own curiosity peak now. I gotta go back and check that. These are static meshes. The other ones are skeletal meshes. That's probably what the difference is. I'll have to go and check how to change the collision properties on that. But anyway, back in here, you got this this thing, and that's going to be the case with all these. You can't slip down in here because of this, the way that this collision's on here. So I'll fix that. I'll let you know how I did it in a follow-up video. So I think what I want to do is, as I go through, I want to show these packs off, and then once the packs are done, I'm probably going to do some Synty, just using Synty assets, but I'll probably go through and start doing some more formal tutorials of how to actually create like pickups and attach weapons, and maybe some basic random AI movements, and just whatever we organically come up with over the course of that. So there's that is the city. That's Polygon Town. I think that's the end of that. Yeah, it is. That's the end of that. Okay. So let's go back to our generic third-person example map for a second. Let me just hit play here and get this guy centered back in. So one of the things that everybody runs into when you buy a Synty asset pack is that you don't have animations on here. These things come without any animations on them whatsoever. But what you can do, two different things. One is you can use your mannequin to put animations on these guys. And if you guys don't know this, I don't know who's watching, how long you guys have been playing with these things, but if you go into the mannequin folder in the animations, he has this thing called a third person AnimBP and an idle run blend space, and then these basic animations for walking and standing still. Well, if you go into the third person anim blueprint for this guy, and you go into the thing called the animation graph, you have a state machine. It understands whether he's in the air or what his speed is and what animations he should be playing. So if he's in his idle run, he's going to be playing this blend space. If he's let's go back here. If he is starting to jump, it's going to play the third person jump start and all that kind of stuff. Now, we don't have those animations for our Synty character. And there's a couple different ways to do this. One way would be you can actually sit down and build an animation blueprint. So you could go into your Synty thing and right click and say, I want to create an animation blueprint. And you could go in there and manually put all that stuff in and connect those nodes. And that's not a bad way to do it. It certainly gives you, some experience. But one of the ways I like to do it is if I go into the character mesh, I just get the UE4 mannequin skeleton. And what I do is I go in here and I put this guy I put him on a humanoid rig, which he's going to be auto-mapped because he belongs to the Unreal Skeleton anyway. So I go in here and I put his upper arm up about 50. I take his lower arm, I drop it down about 10, roll it back around 30, take his wrist or his hand and pull it up around 10. I do the same thing with both of these. So I'm going to get, if I can click on things here, I'm going to go and get his upper arm, bring it up 50, lower arm back 30. This might be redundant for some of you. And then I'm going to tilt it down 10. And I'm going to go and pull, and I'm holding the Alt key and left clicking the mouse button to pan around here. I'm just going to bring his hand up 10. If you look straight down on top of the guy here, again, I'm holding down left with the mouse, with the left mouse button and the Alt key. But if you look down over top of there, you'll see that guy's now in a T-pose. If you go to Modify Pose and use Current Pose, that'll store that for you. Excuse me. And then what you can do, you go down to your Synty character that you want to retarget onto. So let's say we're going to do the one for the Polygon City, since it's the first folder. We'll go Polygon City, Meshes, Characters. And we got a skeleton in here for this character, for the city rig. What I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this and say New Folder, and I'm going to call this Animations. So these are going to be the animations for the Polygon City characters, right? And I'll take this character and I'll take the city rig, I'll pull it up. He's already in a T-pose and he already has most of his bones mapped correctly. But what you want to do is go into Show Advanced and you want to take a look at his hand, because what they normally do, see, let me left click and scroll up over top here again. These guys only have 3 fingers. They've got a thumb, a finger, and then these 3 fingers are the ring, the middle, and the pinky all together. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that your middle finger is mapped to finger 1. It's just called finger 0, 1, 2, and 3 on the left. And then your pinky is actually mapped to, actually they got this wrong, hold on. Your index finger is good here. Yeah, your middle goes to finger. Your pinky also goes to finger. So this will be finger 0, 1 left, finger 0, 2 left, and finger 0, 3 left. And I have some mapping files for these out on my drive, which is included in this the link on this video, by the way. But if you do these, you want to save your own versions of them too, to just make them so that you have them for your library. And I'm going to do the same thing with his ring. His ring is going to be finger 1 left, finger 2 left, and finger 3 left. And then his thumb should be mapped to his thumb. You're going to come down here to this other one. You got the index finger and the finger are okay, but your pinky on the right hand side. You scroll down, finger 1 to the right, go finger 2 to the right. I'm just scrolling down. Finger 3, you're going to go finger 3 to the right. And then your ring finger is also going to be finger 1, finger 2, and finger 3. And your thumb should be okay. And everything else you can leave alone for now. You don't have to worry too much about that. But if I get that guy into the, he's in a T-pose, and he's got those things mapped on his humanoid rig, And you always want to make sure that this doesn't have a thing that says apply to mesh, because if it does, it just means that you've changed something. So if I go preview mesh, for example, and change that to the like male police, that's not the asset that's actually stored on there until I hit this apply to asset or hit it up here. And I'm just going to hit it there. I'm going to say apply to asset. So it's now stored that way. When I save this, what I've done is I basically set this character, SK character city rig, up for retargeting from the mannequin. So now what I can do is take his animation blueprint, so third person anim play. If I right click and say retarget anim blueprint, duplicate, I can pick that city rig. You see I had the cop on there. So I pick the city rig. As long as they're in the same pose and everybody's got a humanoid rig and they're mapped properly, I'll call this like Synty underscore, and I'll just call it CR underscore, so it's a city rig. And then I'm going to change the folder that this goes into, and we know that we're in our Polygon City mesh character animation folders where we want to store this. And if you get down here and you forget to put the folder in, like say you got the characters and there was no animation folder, you can just right click on this and put new folder, and it'll drop one in there for you so you can name it. But anyway, you put it in the character animation folder, you say OK, and basically now you just come over here and hit retarget, and it takes all those animations. If you hit save all, it takes all those animations and pulls them over, so you now have a Synty CR third person anim BP, a blend space, and all the animations that were on the mannequin are now applied to your guy over here. Now what you'll run across every once in a while is you might get a little bit of distortion because the character skeletons are two different sizes. Okay? And what you may find fixes that for you is if you go back to that skeleton, because let me just show you here. If you right click on that and go to skeleton, he's still on that SK character city rig. Under the skeleton tree for that character, for that rig, if you go to options, show retargeting options, just make sure that your root and your pelvis are on animation and animation scaled, and everything else should be applied to your skeleton. And what that does is it makes it so that the retargeting is basically sending the movements to the right proportion bones. It's not stretching you out to be the size of the original animation points. It translates them down to the bones. So, but now that you have that part done, and if that's confusing, again, I have a lot of coverage for that. I did it with Synty Polygon stuff. I did it with Polygon Assets, and so on and so forth. I probably covered it too many times. But anyway, now that I got that in there, all I got to do in my third person character thing is just change what the blueprint points to. So if I go back to third person blueprint, third person character, and there's also two different ways to do this, but one way is to go into this third person character blueprint, go in here and grab the mesh and look at the viewport, and then over here under the skeletal mesh, you can go down there and find your, I'll just put in the word police or whatever. There's your SK character male police. And you can see he's from if you look at the hover over, you can see the path is game Polygon City Mesh character. So if I pick him, now he's going to go into that T pose because he doesn't have any animations assigned right now. But if I go up here and I look for my Synty CR third person anim BP, he's now going to animate the same way that the mannequin does. So that's how you do that. Now if I compile this and hit save, when the game fires up and I hit play, I've got my police officer running around and jumping and everything else just like you would do with the mannequin. It just changes, basically repurposes all the animations and all that kind of stuff and puts them on this guy. I said there's two ways to do it. So the other way is, let's go put this back the way that it was so we can see that it's something different. The skeletal mesh here would go back to mannequin. And then up here, that's just going to be your third person anim BP. You look at the viewport, make sure he's sitting there rocking around. He's back the way he used to be. If I go hit play, everybody's good. Now, the other way you could do that, if you don't want to destroy or disturb the first thing, basically you can take this third person character and just say duplicate and just call this Synty underscore character, or you can call it Synty underscore maybe TP character, so you know it's a third person character, and just save that. Now in your Synty TP character, you would do the same thing. Go back in here to your mesh viewport and go over to the skeletal mesh and change this out. Now I'm going to type in police because we know that that rig for the male police officer is correct. And really any of the characters that are inside of that particular pack are okay. It's not going to work on the other skeletons just yet. But basically I go over here and grab that and I go down and get my Synty CR third person and BP. So now I've got that working. Now if I hit play right now, you see that's going to be this character. To fix that, you go to your third person game mode, and down here where it says third person character, you should be able to change this to your Synty third person character. Compile and save. And now when you hit play, oh, you got to take this guy out of here. I think when you hit play, it should swap it out to that guy. Yeah, if you leave the other guy in there, it's not going to work, but you got to take that out. So now you're using this guy. And if you want to switch it back, since you didn't destroy anything on the other one, you just go back to third person game mode and change this back to your third person character. Hit compile and save and hit play, and you're back to being your mannequin. Okay, so that's a real easy way to change some things and just use the game mode, the third person game mode, to control what the default pawn class is. And you can also do that same thing as an override in the world settings. If you don't see these here, you can go up to settings, world settings, and it'll bring this tab down. But in the world settings, you can also come in here and do a game override. And the game override for this is going to be third person game mode. And then the default pawn class, you could switch over here and say, make that my Synty TP character. So they expose this as a set of controllable things at the front end, and that would allow you to do it too. So if I switch that out, I leave it on third person game mode, but I could go back to the third person character and hit play, and it's just going to toggle back and forth between whichever one I want to use. Okay, that's maybe a little bit more coverage than what you wanted for something like that, but hopefully it gives you an idea what you can do. Now what I was saying is, since we know that we have if I open up let's go back to my Polygon City character animations. What I said earlier was, if I open this guy up, and you can just hit this pause over here. If I go to the skeleton for this guy, his skeleton is called SK Character City Rig. If you go to Preview Mesh, any of these meshes that fall up under the Preview Mesh will be usable on that thing. So if you say, for example, let's go, well, you don't want the jacket, but if you go like female police, or if you go, let's go to, oops, that's the animation. I'll show you why you want the animations later too. If you go in here and get, there you go, male hoodie, right? Now it's not applied to the asset, and actually I could just apply it there, but if I go into the third person, the NMBP for this, under my character, animations, see now that's assigned as the default for the mesh on there. So when I hit play, because I applied that to the mesh, you would think that that would be here, but it's not, because in the actual blueprint, that's just the preview mesh. So in the, or in the controller rather, I'm sorry, way down here, under the blueprint, you take your Synty TP character and you take his mesh, and this is where you go in here, and I think it was called something hooded or whatever. So male with the hoodie. If you change it there, he's still using the same city rig, but it's just a different mesh on there. The other one's a preview. This one is the actual controller from the Synty third person character. Now the reason they do that, and I don't want to lose you guys, this is a lot to cover, but at least you can pause these, maybe you can go back, and I'm certainly not saying that you guys don't know what's going on. Most of you probably know more about this than I do, but I don't know who's watching. So if I go down into the mesh for the characters in here, if they had any kind of an attachment, so I could go into the character preview. So let's say if I go into this guy, I can go into his skeleton and say I wanted to use his, like a weapon or whatever. And I wanted to see how that weapon looked in his hand. I could go over here and find his left hand or his right hand. Let's go to his right hand. And I could go in here and say add preview asset. And I'm going to go in here and find a gun. So we have a weapon, shotgun 01. Let's just grab that. So what I can do, I can put a weapon in his hand and see what he's going to look like. Now that's not where you want to put that weapon because it's attached to his hand, and I can't rotate that because I rotate his hand. See. So the workaround is you go to the hand, you right click and you say add socket. As a matter of fact, he actually has one in here, SK weapons shotgun. That's the preview. So you go in here and we would just say handar wep or whatever, or you could just call it WS for weapon socket. You come up with your naming convention. I'm just going, maybe I'll call it weapon. So right hand weapon. And then I can go over here and say off of that right hand, because that's attached now, right hand weapon. What I can do is go up here and say clear, remove all attached assets. I can go on the right hand weapon and say add preview asset again. Go type gun. Now this is just moving it onto the actual socket. Grab that shotgun. Now I can grab the hand R weapon socket and I can rotate that, and you see how his hand stays in the same spot, but now I can move the gun. So normally with anything you do, most stuff is going to be off by exactly 90 degrees or 180 degrees. So I'm just going to rotate that 90 degrees that way. Then I would come over and bring it 90 degrees this way. And then, now so that you're looking at this, you're like, well, how am I going to figure out if that's where I want that or how it's going to look normally? Well, that's where the preview animation comes in. So if I preview animation and I just type in idle, I've got his idle animation sequence. So now his hands are in a more natural, relaxed position. And then I can pause this. And after I pause it, I can see, how he needs to have this thing rotated. So if I go up 90 this way and spin this over here 90, and then take it and tilt it out 90 or whatever, maybe it's only 20 or 30, but you get what I'm saying. Whatever it is that you want to do to put this in the proper orientation for his hand, you're going to have code that drives a lot of this stuff, or not code, but a blueprint rather. And you can just use these tools here to move that socket down and put it wherever you want it to be. And that same socket can be moved in or out. So his hand isn't through the weapon. Oh, I just made a copy of that. I did that about 1,000 times last night. I'm just going to remove or delete that rather. But that's how you would do that. You go in there and you get everything set up and get it positioned. But now that the socket is correct, or if the socket is correct, every hand or everything that you put in that hand, that's some type of a weapon. So let's see if there's like a machine gun. Nah. So just type in gun. So here's another shotgun weapon. So that's a different asset. I'm surprised there's not more. You'd think there'd be a lot more gun weapons in here. I don't know what other weapons are in here. Add preview asset. Let's go to, is there a knife in here? Small item cutlery knife. So see, you can even put a knife in his hand. Now that knife, that socket, that mesh for the knife, you'd have to rotate that around. But you're not going to probably put that in there anyway. But I was saying if the weapons and everything, most of them are going to be oriented the correct way or the same way. So you just start creating these sockets for holding stuff. And if you wanted to make it so that let's say that the knife, you don't want to rotate that, but the knife's different than the weapon for the hand and blah, blah, blah. Well, you just do the same thing. You go back to hand R, you just say add socket. And this one you would call, maybe you change your naming convention. This one might be called underscore knife. And this one might be called underscore gun. Or even shotgun. Maybe the shotgun looks a certain way. And then you would go and attach your knife to this. Add preview asset. Go in there and get your knife. and attach it. And then you just have to take this socket and move it into whatever position makes sense. It's a really small knife, it's hard to say. But there's your knife. And then you would just go and move that up into position by using your tools here. So you just drag it up, pull it over, you know, wherever you want to put it. I can't see where anything's at right now. Yeah, this is going great. Do I not have it attached to his hand? Oh, I had multiple things selected there. It looked like that's weird. But yeah, you just oh, that's also because this is playing. I must have hit the space bar by accident and started playing the animation. Because normally this thing isn't bouncing all over the place. You can just go over there and shove it into position wherever you want it. But apparently I'm having a tough time with it, so I'm going to delete that. But anyway, hopefully you get the idea. And I covered this in more detail in another video, and I'll cover it again in a more comprehensive tutorial type version. And I cover this also in the MSGT template video and several different places. So that's a quick way to do that. Now I said I was going to show you another quick way to get some animations for your character. So what we'll do is we'll go back out here. Now I've got this character, this SK character city rig. Save all these. And what I can do is I can take this mesh and just say asset actions, export. And I got this FBX file. What I can do here, and I got those animations there. So I'm going to say save this out to my desktop, for example, SK character male police. And I just use the defaults and just export it. And then what I want to do is go out here to Synty, or to Mixamo rather. Covering a lot of stuff here. Hopefully you guys are enjoying these videos. They're getting ready to come to an end because I'm going back to work pretty soon. And then my normal schedule is that I shoot pool Monday nights and Tuesday nights on an 8-ball and a 9-ball team. And then on Friday nights and Saturday nights I DJ. So my free time goes down pretty quick. But I'm going to go ahead and upload this. Select character file. Go back out to the desktop. And I've got that SK character male police. So usually that thing will rig right up, no problem. In the event that it doesn't, you can also get one that does work from your Synty packs, pull it in, and then retarget your other characters to it. But we'll let this process real quick. It's not going to have the colors and the mesh on it, but it should have the bone structure. So once it gets up there, it's going to say, hey, does that look okay to you? I'm going to say, yep, looks good to me. And I'm now going to have a copy of my police skeleton. And if you want to, you could even shut this off and just see his skeleton framework and stuff. But we'll leave him like this. So usually that works out a little bit better. And then from here, if you want to find animations for him, you go into the animations section. And as I was saying earlier, you just type in pack. And I could put like the locomotion pack on that guy, for example. And if I hold, there's a spot in here where it says like something about keeping the camera, toggle the follow camera. So that's going to keep it on the guy. And he's just going to play through these different animations. So again, you could pause these, and then you could kind of preview him, see what all he's going to do. And if you get something, you don't like that, you go get another one, breakdance pack. Now, if you go in Mixamo and you have some of these, you can break them out as an individual or single animation also. But I usually grab the packs because I can deal with everything that comes out of them later. But like, say you wanted this guy to go over and break dance or whatever, and you could download this entire package and put it on that guy. And you can set that up in your animation blueprint that whenever you hit a certain button, it fires this animation. But if you go in here by using it with your Synty skeleton, see if I can find a small enough pack here. Might have to be the locomotion pack. Here's 7 items is enough. Actually, let's do Slim Shooter pack because it's, excuse me, that'll help us with the other thing. So when you click it, you get Slim Shooter pack on your SK character male police. Okay. Now, unfortunately for me, when I take this toggle follow camera off, he's going to be running around, and then we're going to have to deal with a thing called root motion animations. which I don't really want to get into in the scope of this little video here. So bear with me on that. That's a whole different topic. Now we just go over here and download this. Keep it in T-Pose FBX. Hit the download button. Hey, what's happening, Nerds Playhouse? Yeah, I see that. You got to get Synty's Polygon Fantasy Kingdom. I have a lot of medieval related assets and stuff, so I'm not sure if I'm ready to pull that trigger. I did buy the Apocalypse pack, and I also bought the City Heist pack as well, or Gang Warfare or whatever it's called. Okay, so if I go up here to desktop and drop that Slim Shooter pack out there, go over here and say Show in Folder. Excuse me. And I'm going to go and extract this. Now, what I have out here, minimize these out of the way. In my Slim Shooter pack, where did I download? Or I thought I just unpacked that. There we go. In my Slim Shooter pack, I'm going to have my copy of my character, Male Police, but I'm not going to drag him in there. What I'm going to do instead is go in this animation folder where all my other anims are. And if you want to, you could even do a subfolder in here. And maybe I'll do that. I'll go new folder, and I'll just call this Mixamo. So what I can do is I can take this, let's say rifle aiming idle. I can do this all at the same time. As a matter of fact, let me show you the whole process. So what I do is I grab everything except for the character because I don't need that. I already have that FBX in my kit. So if I just hold down Control and select it again, now it's not there. So I have all these other animations. I can just literally drag these into this space over here. And it's going to ask me how I want to do this. So what I want to do is I want to pick a skeleton. And what I do is I pick the skeleton for the Synty character for the city rig, which is in my Polygon Mesh Characters folder. So I'm going to pick that. And then I just tell it I want to import the animations with the exported time. But I don't need to import the mesh because I already have the skeletal mesh. I'm using this rig for that. And I always click Convert Scene Unit. Some people have said not to. Some people have said you can. I'm not sure. I'm just going to do it and hit Import All. Excuse me. But as I do that, and I picked a real small pack just because of the time constraints that we have for these. If you did this to every pack that's out there, you'll have all the animations coming in against that skeleton. And you notice I'm not bringing the FBX from the thing that I sent out earlier. I'm bringing it in this way. So if I go in here and I can say Save All, but you can already see there's my firing rifle anim. There's my reloading anim. I should have a rifle aiming idle, you know. So that's why these would become important here, is running with a rifle, you know. But it's a real easy way to grab a hold of some of this stuff. And if you want to change his animations, so let's say that every time, let's say we're playing a game where he's always going to be running around with a rifle. Let's just say for whatever reason we do that. We want to do rifle run, and we're going to do rifle aim idle is going to be his two animations that we want to switch. So if I go over here to this, to the animation blueprint, and I go in here to the animation graph, into his default state machine, he's got this idle run blend space. And I can go in here. There's the easier way to get into that. I just went like the longest possible way in the world to get there. But I was trying to show you the sequence. The easy way to get to that is actually it's sitting right here. So if I go into this, the way that these work, this little green dot on here, if I'm all the way over to the left, I'm at 0, which means I'm going to play whatever animations that identified here. So let me move this out a little bit. If you hover over it, you see it says Synty CR third person idles, what gets played at 0. Okay. Somewhere in between here and there, I start to blend into the animation of whatever's here, which is going to be third person walk. So I bring it out a little bit. Boom, he's on third person walk. And when I go from third person walk and I go all the way up to his run animation, that's basically indicative of me pushing the W key forward to get a third person walk. Now, if you had a joystick or something, you could get more granular movement in there. That would, with a joystick, maybe you push a little bit forward or you click down to make it run. But what we want to do is we want to swap these out. Now, since I brought those animations in against that character, you can see all my other stuff was Synty CR because I prefixed it on the way with the retarget. But with these come in with no prefix on them. I would probably prefix these later. But what I can do is if I go rifle aiming idle, we replace that there. When I go down here, now he's aiming idle. And if I want this third person walk, I can use the walking with a gun animation there. So as I move into that, now he's going to walk with his gun. And if I want him to run with his gun, I would just take his rifle run and drop it over there. And you see now as I slide through that timeline, he's going to keep running with his rifle, so on and so forth. You see? So I changed those animations. Now if I save that, and I go out here and hit play, you can see I'm idle, and it looks like I'm holding a gun. Right? And as I start running around, moving or whatever, it looks like I'm running around with an aimed rifle because I changed it in the animation blueprint. Now what you normally would do is you would create states for these, and actually that looks like that capsule would need to be adjusted a little bit to get him down on the ground. That's a strange animation. But that's in the animation cause and all that. We can fix it. But this is what I was saying earlier, is now that we have that type of a pose, it makes it even easier to go into the editor and attach a weapon. So for example, if I say rifle aiming idle, if I pull that up and go to a skeleton tree, I'm going to hit the pause button over here, give myself a little bit more working space. But see, now I would go in here and I would find that hand R shotgun. I'm going to go in here and right click and say attach preview asset and go to shotgun, and I would attach that. Now I can take that hand RG shotgun and rotate it around and get it into some type of position that's going to be usable. And I would translate this and just drop it down in there so that his hand is, like in the zone of where his trigger is. Now I'm going to pull it over a little bit so that his hand's on the opposite side of that. And then I'm going to click this button and I'm going to spin it just a little bit. And then I could probably just take this here, push it down some, slide it back a little bit. You're just going to tweak this a little until you get these the way that you want them. And you just keep kind of noodling around with it until you get it the way you want. But once you get this way, this is good for the shotguns normally. So what we got there? That's probably going to be pretty close. I was watching a live stream from Beefalo Bart today, and he was talking about something with the animations for some of these weapons, and somebody had asked him if he was going to fix the... Oh, and here's an important thing. I'm just talking right past this. Right now, my my scaling and my rotation snap, I'm going to turn these down. I'm going to turn this down to 1. Because what that'll let me do is it'll let me have a little bit more granularity over how this goes. See, it's still a little bit too much. I don't know if I can get it down past that, can I? No. Can I do 2.82? There you go. So now I got just enough room to do that, and I can slide this over just a hair. And I can take and pull this over just a smidge. But anyway, I was watching Beefalo Bart. He was working on some stuff, and I guess somebody asked him if he was going to fix the animation or whatever, and he said, when you're playing a shooter game and somebody's firing bullets at you, nobody's really looking at the animation of the gun, the reload or whatever. I thought, it's pretty accurate, but we spend a lot of time playing around with these. But you get the idea here. You would go in and adjust things, and you can move stuff around to make this fit, and then that socket now is going to be good for whenever you have a gun. And if you hit the play animation on there, go back and hit play on this again. Now, this is not permanently attached to this guy. This is just a preview. But this is what it would look like when you write something that says, hey, I ran over a shotgun, pick it up and equip it to that socket. That's where it's going to go. And we'll cover stuff like that in the very near future. But again, now with these animations and preview meshes and stuff, you know, you can, now that you got that on there with the preview, you just go over to the other one and get, you know, here's the rifle run. So that's what he's going to look like running with his rifle. You know, he's already got the preview on there, or even with his strafe. You know, and I would fix these. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and do it now. Sometimes it can be very monotonous, but you get the idea, I hope. And so with that, I think I covered everything I said I was going to cover. I gave you the overview of the Polygon City, the city characters, the farm pack, the heist pack, the town pack. I showed you how to get additional animations, retarget from the mannequin onto the third person blueprint, how to modify your blueprints to have your own Synty TP character versus the normal third person character and switch it inside of the game mode. And we also covered how to get more animations from Mixamo in the packs downloaded against a Synty skeleton that was exported out as an FBX file. I think that's probably about it for the night. If you go to my Google Drive, which is in the link of this, you'll have some assets in there that will help you figure out how to retarget your characters. And if you have questions, feel free to leave some messages here in this video. I think this one was probably a little bit longer than the other ones were, just because we covered a lot of stuff in the back end. But I'm trying to get you guys as much information as I can. Again, Synty's having this 50% off sale, so if you get a chance, you know, load up on these assets. It helps those guys out a lot when you buy direct. You get a lot of different features and things that you can see in the videos. Plus, you get the FBXs that you can actually do something with. And you don't have to get the package from there to get the FBX. You'll still get a file in there that you can export out with the mesh to take it up to Mixamo. So I don't want to mislead you and say you have to buy them from the Synty store to do that. I'm encouraging you to buy them from the Synty store so that you can do that. The other thing, too, is if you like these assets and for some reason you decide down the road that you're tired of Unreal Engine, when you buy them directly from the store, you get Unity and Unreal here. So you're going to have those same assets that you could port over to something else. You asked me that question yesterday about the tutorial on how to get Chaos to work, and I did reply to your question in the previous video, but I will answer it again here real quick for those of you who didn't see it. If you go into your launcher, the question's about the, in case anybody's just watching this and doesn't see the comment chats, the question's about, is there a tutorial to get the Chaos engine to work? Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate that, and glad to help where I can. If you guys have questions, make sure you let me know. So if you go into the Learn tab in your launcher, what you're going to find as you scroll down a little bit is that there's actually an engine feature sample in here. And that engine feature sample for the Chaos Destruction demo is right here. So if you click on this, you're going to have a little bit of work to do. This is actually written, it says it's supported by 423 to 425. I tried to run this twice today and it crashed because it also says it requires a compiled source build of 423, and it also says it will not work with the pre-compiled version from the launcher. You will also need to enable Chaos. Please see this guide for more information. So if you go in here and click this, you will find documentation in here of how to enable the Chaos engine in that older version. This is a 424 note, okay? My recommendation would be download version 424 or 423. Get yourself a free copy of, you can go out here and look for Visual Studio and type in the word community, I think is what they call it. Yeah, Visual Studio Community Edition. And Visual Studio Community Edition, there's 2019, 2017, whatever. These are free versions from Microsoft that are for indie work. So you can download this, and then you're also going to want to go out, and they tell you how to do this. Let's go back to, where was I at? I think I was here. If you go back in here, and they bailed me out of there. That's nice. Oh, I'm in this thing. Okay. So if you click on that, this will tell you actually how to compile the source build here. So there's additional documentation for that, how to build Unreal Engine from source code. And basically you download into GitHub, you pull down the files, and you go into that Visual Studio, you pull up the SLN file, and just follow this information. Even though the pictures aren't here anymore, you should still be able to get through it. And it's going to tell you how to create all that stuff. Then you can go into that version of your Unreal Engine that you downloaded. And what you basically do there is once you're inside of the Unreal that you downloaded, you go under Settings, and you're going to go to Plugins. And in there somewhere, now I'm in version 4.25 right now, so I don't even know where that's at in here. It's embedded in the code now. But in an earlier version, you would have gone in here, and there's a section normally called Experimental. And in here, you would have found the Chaos Engine stuff that you could flip on. Actually, now that it's embedded in here, it may be maybe built in. Yeah, Chaos Cloth, Chaos Editor, Chaos Niagara, Chaos Editor right here. But I couldn't find it in this. I found it 2 versions ago and played around with it. The other thing, and I don't want to get too far off topic here, but I want to answer that question for you because I know you've asked me that in a previous video, and I want to make sure that you get the answer you deserve. So if you go out here and just search for UE4 Chaos Engine, you're going to find Chaos Destruction System demos, and then here is an entire thing where they cover it. And somewhere in here, I think they did an entire seminar or whatever dedicated to how to work with that thing. But it's all based on the 4.23 or 4.24. Now, in my experience, they don't change drastic things from 423 to 424, or 423 to 424 to 425. They tweak it a little bit and then bury it somewhere in the thing. You're gonna have to find it. But back there into that documentation section, you're gonna find all that in there for that thing. I hope that helps you. There are several tutorials on that Chaos Engine, but not written for 425 because it just came out a couple days ago. And it's still, to the best of my knowledge, it's not fully released. It's actually in version, I think it was called Preview 7 or something like that. But you also have down here, here's the documentation for that. And if you go into the documentation section, you scroll down to the bottom, here's the construction overview, Chaos construction overview, or destruction overview rather. And you go in here, and when you get to about right here into the thing in that older version, this is how you actually enabled it. You compile things together into a bundle that can then be split up and fractured. And they show you a little bit of an example of how that whole thing works and how many components you want to decompose and everything else, Yeah, so there's Seth Fox saying there's a whole hour-and-a-half long guide by Epic. And I remember seeing, they do these, I forget what they call them. They're basically like a webinar type thing. But it's a bunch of the developers and stuff like that sitting around sitting around the table doing a talk. But what I found also, just another plug for Ali Akbar, you go into the Unreal Engine, where are we at? Advanced Locomotion. So if you go in here, Dungeon Architect. Oh, told you it's better if you type it in the box, or if you can spell. You got a lot of stuff going on over here. That's doesn't even look remotely right. Okay, Inside a Dungeon Architect. So this guy wrote a bunch of previews for his engine, or for this Dungeon Architect. I think this is like $100, but it's basically a procedural generator, and it's absolutely one of the best things I've ever seen. But in here, when you set this up, he actually has a demo that has that Chaos physics engine enabled. And I can pull it up and show it to you, but it's in a package that he puts in there called... Now, I'm not saying you got to go spend $100 to do this, but inside of his quick start demo and his content, he has this Dungeon Architect destructible map that's already set up. And it's basically, like it says here, FPS modification. So that is a modification of, if you go to the Learn tab again and you scroll down in here to the bottom under the game section, you get this shooter game. So he took the shooter game and made a lot of the glass and all that kind of stuff that's in there destructible using the chaos physics engine. So if you click on some of those things, you'll see how that whole thing's built. So again, my recommendation, if you're really, really super interested in how that works, I would go back a version or two, compile that source code, go and watch all the tutorial videos and, whatever else, that you need to figure that all out. And then once the engine gets released in a stable version in 25, I would download that or go back to it, because I'm sure there's going to be another update. I would download that update and then figure out how to translate what I've learned in 423 or 424. And from there, you should have everything you need, I would guess, to upgrade that to the new version to work with other things. For people who are just getting started in these engines, you're probably not going to notice too much difference between 423, 424, and 425, to be quite honest with you. I've been working in these things since like 421. I can't tell you the difference between any of them other than the buttons moved here and there occasionally. Most of the stuff that they change is stuff that I'm not even into yet. So if anybody's watching the live chat in here, ZethFox has given you a bunch of info on that thing. And like he's saying, they live code it. You sit there and you watch the whole thing, and also about the Dungeon Architect and everything. Hey, what's happening, Warhands? Didn't get around to the DCS ALS4 since it's got flight animations, and trying to learn how to make a jetpack equipable, plus give flying effects. Yeah, that's cool. So everybody who's watching this, Warhands just popped in here. Now he's actually working on the thing I was talking about the other night. We were looking at trying to marry up the two engines between. Where's it at? Where's my Epic launcher? We go to my library. So we're actually working on a package that's got a combo of the advanced locomotion system and the dynamic combat system ported over to the Synty asset packs. And both of us independently working on that thing have gotten different pieces of it to work. So I'm really hopeful that we get a chance to figure that out, because I think it's a valuable resource for a lot of people. I think it was 2 nights ago in a live stream I showed how to take all the ALS animations and port them over for your character. And then one of the other ones before that, I was able to do the DCS system also. So I do have a dynamic combat system in here with the Synty on it. So I can pull that up real quick while we're talking about this. I don't think I've ever seen. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Dungeon Architect. I thought you said something else. Dungeon Architect was on sale when I bought it. I got it for $50. Probably last year around August or something like that. He also had a kit that was given away for free that was called the Prefabricator, which is also another incredible asset. And like Zeth is saying, he does sales now. He might, I'm not sure. You'd have to confirm this. But my guess would be a guy like Ali Akbar probably has his own website where you can buy direct from him, and you might get stuff, a little bit better or quicker. So I would check that out and go and look at his videos and see what that thing does, because if you're going to build any kind of big, giant, sprawling world, or you want to randomize stuff quickly and deploy things rapidly, that's the direction you're probably going to end up going into. Just my guess. Now, what I didn't try yet is bringing in his destructible template into the 425 environment. So maybe I'll do that, and I'll put that out as a separate little snippet. But what I was saying here is we got this. Ooh, right up that guy's hoo-ha there. So in here, I did get the Synty packs ported over to the dynamic combat system, and then Warhands did a shout out and said he had actually been working on it with the other asset packs too, and got it all put together. So I did talk about this. I'm eventually going to do this as a tutorial as soon as I get done featuring these Synty asset packs and everything. I'm going to start talking about how to migrate dynamic combat system onto Synty. Yeah, so it's 11. It's also 11:16 for me. I'm on the East Coast. I appreciate you stopping in and showing some support. I normally don't get on until like around 10:30, sometimes 9:30, 10, 10:30, just because of my regular old schedule. So, in answer to your question for the timestamps, I have gone back and timestamped some of these, and probably what I will do is for the ones where I'm covering the packages and then I jump into some kind of a topic as far as like, retargeting and stuff, I'll probably timestamp the basic pieces of that. But what I'm also thinking about doing is downloading these videos and then cutting them up into another section for you so I could actually put it back up as a separate video. Sometimes I organically get into coverage of things that I've already done, and a lot of the other videos now, if you want to learn about animation retargeting and things like that, for example, go back through my channel and look at the videos that I put out on those, because most of the time if I'm teaching an actual tutorial, that thing's going to be like 7 minutes, 11 minutes, 15 minutes, All right, Zeth, you have a good night, man. And, hopefully you're staying safe and healthy, and I'll catch you soon. Appreciate you dropping by. What I was saying is if you go back to some of those earlier ones, when I'm actually doing a tutorial, a proper tutorial, I get to the point, I cut it right to the chase, 6, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it takes to explore that topic. With these things, this is just kind of like, me noodling around because we're home with this quarantine thing. Yeah, I can cut them out to topics for you. But also, I mean, I don't know if you, I have a subscription to YouTube. So my subscription to YouTube, I think, lets me save videos and stuff like that. But I don't know if it lets you download them. I was going to say if it does, you have my permission to chop them up all you want. The other thing too, I don't know if a lot of people know this. If you go into, we've gone way off topic here. I'll probably have to chop the back end of this video out just to get back into compliance with what we were even trying to talk about. But if you go into, for example, a video, let's go back to my channel for a second there. Maybe this will help you out. Hey, what's happening, man? How you making out tonight? Yeah, I'm back on. So if you go into the videos, when you're in a video, it's going to be like I said before, a little inception here, watching my video within a video. But let's say you go through here and you're like, you get into a concept that you like, where I'm doing a retarget, for example. So you got a timestamp here at 2408, and like you said, I could timestamp that. But the other thing you can do too is if you go in here and say share, down at the bottom of this, you can just click this little thing that says start at 2408, and it puts the timestamp of 1448 in there. And if you copy that link, all you have to do is create yourself a little shortcut library. So just go new, shortcut, put that link in there, and call this, retarget or whatever. Retarget animations, Synty, whatever you want to call that thing. So when you go and open that, it's going to pull it up and it's going to take you right to that timestamp. So you could bookmark yourself a couple little thing there. You say, do I have a stream using Dungeon Architect? Yes, Warhands, I do have a stream using Dungeon Architect, and here it is. If you go back to my channel, go under videos. I started working on a game a long time ago that never really took off for me. It's called Northammer ARPG, and the 3-minute and 10-second version of this, when Dungeon Architect was on sale, I bought it for $50. So Northammer ARPG was going to be a migration of the action RPG system ported over into a Synty game, and then I started playing around with the idea of taking action RPG and migrating it into a larger scale world like Northammer, what I was calling Northammer. So in here I talk about, it's a work in progress, but also in that same thing a little bit later, somebody asked me about it, so I do like a 27-minute video in here about getting started with it. And in here, around, looks like maybe right in here, I talk about how to use the randomizers for this. Oops. I don't even know how to use YouTube. So basically, if you see what I'm doing there, there's these little nodes in the world. One's called a dungeon background, one's called a dungeon ground, one's called a dungeon main. And basically what you do is you drop that thing out in the world, and there's a button down here that'll say randomize seed right here. So you randomize the seed, then you hit build dungeon, and what it'll do is it'll just dynamically create one, and then you can destroy the dungeon and randomize the seed and build it again. And what you do is you do this inside of a map that if you like the outcome of it, you just go and hit the file save button and then go build another map. So you'll see in here, I do that now. After you build your dungeon the way that you want it, what you have to do is make sure you go in and put in a nav mesh bounds so that if you have any AI characters in there, that you can go back and get them to then, navigate through that thing. And you can see there's a random dungeon that was just created by hitting the destroy dungeon and randomize seed buttons. So the other aspect of this thing, like I said, for a dynamic generator, this thing does a lot of cool stuff. So I'm building another dungeon, bam. Now this dungeon was using the Infinity Blade Ice package, which is obviously free content from the marketplace. And I also put in the Fire, Grass, and Soul Cave, I think is the other one. And they all have different generators in them. But the way that this thing works is that he has a group of, their decision structures, I guess is probably the easiest way to think of them. Let's go close this. And let's see. That's my DCS dungeon. Let's close that. So those decision structures that are in there, what they do, let's go to, where did I put it? I got stuff everywhere out here. Northammer Action RPG. I think this is the one. So with his decision structures in there, what it does, it says every time I want to put up a wall section, it randomly picks from 4 or 5 wall sections that you've defined. And, same thing with ground cover, and if you want snow on something or different wall hangings and decorative stuff. And then with his Prefabricator asset, you can also take and define groups of objects and put them together as a prefab, so you can chunk down massive sprawling areas pretty quick. And then the other thing you can do with that is you can randomize the contents of that. So let me show you real quick. So that was my video on that. Hopefully you get a chance to go check out Northammer ARPG, Getting Started. That'll talk about Dungeon Architect for you and hopefully answer some of your questions. If I go to, so here it is right here. So for example, I'm in that DA Infinity Blade Ice. If I go down to the map section, whoa, slow down a little. Go down to the map section, and I just take a new map in here. I'll just pull this up real quick. And I can go in here and grab a dungeon main. So here's my dungeon main. And I just go down to this thing in the details and just say destroy dungeon. You see it wipes that whole thing out. Now that's my nav mesh bounds in there acting up. And actually, let's see if I can pull that in here. So I'm just going to destroy this one, just so it doesn't keep trying to redraw it. So you have that in there. So if you go in again, you just want a dungeon main. You've got this section for it. Where's it at? Dungeon main is out here. I go and say randomize seed, build dungeon. And so there's a dungeon. And if you zoom in on this thing, what it is it's using the Infinity Blade assets. And these things, it's cool. I mean, it's got all kinds of cool stuff there. And then there's another one called Dungeon Ground. Now, Dungeon Ground is all this stuff with these little spikes and spires and the different things that are out here. And then there's another one called Dungeon Background, which is this wall section that masks everything in and puts fog in it. So, again, real quick, now the other thing you can do is if you didn't like that when you destroy it, that's destroying the, I just destroyed the ground. So I can go in here, randomize the seed, and build it again. And they'll put more ground cover. I go back to dungeon main, destroy dungeon, and I can move this. So if I don't like where that is, I can slide it over here and hit build dungeon, and they'll build it from starting there. Now I could take that dungeon main And I think if I hold down, is it Control or Alt? That doesn't do it. One of these moves it. But I'll just grab another one. Just go in here and say Dungeon when you're in the Dungeon Architect thing. And there should be a dungeon piece here. And you can stick this someplace else. And that's its own separate thing. Let's see here. I think it's probably too close to the other one. But you get the idea. You could build a huge complex. Whoops, I did that earlier and I don't know what the hell what is the button that I'm hitting when I'm doing that. I think you can put this over here and okay, so I brought that in without assigning a theme to it. It's actually what I would have wanted to do. I did actually create a second one here, didn't I? Dungeon main 2. I'll bring this down here and say build dungeon. That already has the theme assigned to it, I believe. There you go. So you can drag these around and drop off little dungeon areas all over the place. Now see, it's attached to that one, so you'd have to have a separate, build this dungeon over there. Copy this. You go to edit, copy, and then you just go in here and say edit, paste. Actually, I think you have to edit, paste. And then now I got a dungeon main 3, and I can pull it over here and say randomize seed, build dungeon. So you could pretty easily build this like massive complex. And then all you're going to do, these things here are they're just assets that were created using, the stuff that was already in there. So, you just come around and say, okay, well, I don't want that wall section there. Let's get rid of this wall section here. So now I can create an opening, to get through from one area to another. I got my camera speed jacked way up. Let's turn that down a little bit. Sorry about that. Zipping you guys all over the place. But, but in theory, anything that you want to go through and modify or tweak, you can just put that right in there, And what I had done is I had created a thing in here. Let's go to player start. So my player start, I would just drop it over an area where I can actually be. And then I just go and hit play. And my guy's going to probably fall from the sky into there. I didn't put it down low enough. All right, now so on this particular iteration of the thing, what I had done is taken the action role-playing game and started turning this into a little hack and slash type deal I was working on. But you can see this complex that he's in. It's just dynamically generated there while you guys were watching on the screen. And the cool thing about this asset pack or this utility is that you can actually do this at runtime. So if you wanted to have a Diablo style generator or something like that, where every time you go into an area or dungeon it's different, you can do it with this tool. And if something's in your way, you just flag down where it is and come back and get it. But this was just all made, these little encampments and stuff, all that stuff. So inside of here, what he has is these things called themes. And you saw earlier, it told me there was no theme. But inside of it's under blueprints or actors. Might be that. That's a blueprint class. Dungeons. Yeah, so here's a theme. So what he does in here for the snow cliff, for example, is you have this entire I don't even know what this thing's called. Somebody watching probably knows exactly what this is. But it goes through and it just starts making decisions. So if you're going to put an ice glacier in there, you're going to get one of these 5 ice glaciers. And if you want to pick a different ice glacier, you just go over here and you assign whatever mesh you want to that box. Now you have to know a little bit about the structure and the size of your items and all that kind of stuff, And basically once you assign this, they call these like theme files. Here's all the different room tiles you use. You go through there and you put it all together, and you just start generating stuff and saving the maps however you want to. And then you can go back through and put your other assets together in it. And I mentioned the Prefabricator because that's a pretty cool tool also, and I had that in this package turned on in this version of the editor. But again, what that would have been for is if you wanted to take, like say you wanted to have a little feature at like a, let's go into something in here. Probably losing some people here. I'm way off topic, but hopefully I'm answering some people's questions and giving you something to go check out. Here, let's say I wanted to have like a prefab where I'm going to take this item, and I think you'd hold control. Let's say I want to take that whole thing and turn it into a prefab. I can just go in here and say create prefab from selection, and now that becomes an object that I could then paste into the world and make copies of it and stick it wherever I want to. So that actually shows up over here now. I think it shows up in here. Yeah, prefab actor. So if I go prefab, you'd want to give different names and stuff, but you could basically drag these out. I got a prefab here. I can just drag them out into the world now. So everywhere I want to go and put that little cluster, you could certainly highlight and duplicate stuff. But if I had a bunch of prefabs, I just go, I want to put that out here. Let me drag another one over this. I'm just randomly doing this. You get the idea. It's an amazing tool for even $100. How long do you think it would take you to sit down and draw this? And if you didn't like it, how long do you think it would take you to redraw it? You got to kind of think that way on some of these things. I know it's expensive and money's not, an easy thing to come by any stretch of the imagination, but time is the one thing you can't replace. You can replace money, but you can't replace time. So if you're going to spend time doing this and you got some kind of massive project like this, there is certainly, I'm sure, a sense of enjoyment of, getting this done by yourself or building it or whatever. But for me, the enjoyment is slapping this down and then making some kind of a playable thing, and actually going in there and having some fun. So like, for example, if I go back into the maps, when I started playing with this for, let's see, where did I put it? I have a thing in here somewhere for, I think it's under this one. Thought it was right here. It might be this. And I'm not going to worry about saving that. I don't know if it's, nah, one of these I actually sat down and started populating an area to play in. Nah. I have a different version of this. It's actually a functional demo of that game. But, I don't know if that answers your question about how this whole thing works. Is that, I don't know if you're even still there, Warhands, but does that give you kind of an example of how that Dungeon Architect works? What you really want, if you have the Dungeon Architect, you said you got it when it was on sale, what you really want is this. You want to get this Dungeon Architect Quick Start Content Pack, which should have been available to you if you're in your launcher. So when you're in your launcher here, go to your library, go down and just type in Dungeon, and you'll get to your Dungeon Architect. Click on that. It's going to take you to the content detail. And down here at the bottom, he's got tutorials and quick start guides. Somewhere in here, in one of these, I think he has he's redoing some stuff, so I don't know where it's all at now. It used to be sitting right up here, but somewhere he has a thing where you download that package. And it gives you all these different things. But if you looked at my screen here, I'll hold my screen up for you for a second here so you can kind of see what I did. you're going to want to install, if you're going to use that type of thing, you're going to want to install the Infinity Blade Fire, Infinity Blade Grass, Infinity Blade Ice, and some of the adversaries and effects and all that kind of stuff that comes with the Infinity Blade package. You're going to want to install that stuff on there. That way, when you bring in his builders, those theme files are already pointed to those assets in those locations. And he explains all that in something that you're going to see there, either in a video link. He may have put the asset pack in the video link or something like that, you know. But let me know if you have questions about that, or you need help getting started or getting that set up. I can get together with you, and we can work through getting that rolling for you. So with that being said, I will probably take this video and chop it up and put it back up when it's done or something. Or I don't know. This last portion of it, maybe I'll just retitle it and say "And Dungeon Architect" because there's a lot of stuff in here in the back end that wasn't really part of the original topic. But again, I like to help answer questions. I appreciate you guys stopping in and taking your time to visit. If more people would be more interested in me getting on earlier in the evening, just let me know. I don't have to stay out this late, but it was just kind of what was suiting my earlier schedule. If there's a better time that works for everybody that I can answer questions or whatever, I'm more than happy to do that for you. And I'll put my Discord link in the description of this video later on. So if you want to reach out to me, you can, and I can probably answer some questions for you, at least get you pointed in the right direction, and hopefully help you out. But if nobody else has any other questions or anything regarding this, I am going to go ahead and jump off of here. It's almost 11:40 on the East Coast. I'm in New Jersey in the United States, so hopefully everybody's taking care of themselves out there and staying safe. And just real quick, we'll go back to the original topic. The Synty store is having their 50% off sale for the rest of this month. Again, I'm not affiliated with Synty. I don't get paid by them or anybody else. I just do this as a passionate hobby of mine. So if you get a chance, go out there and check out their stuff. You get a lot of assets for very inexpensive, and they look great. They work with a lot of different stuff. But I think you'll find, even if you started out with a small one in there just to get you up and running with a couple of characters, they got this prototype pack for $2.50. And if you're not sure what a prototype pack is, a lot of times when a game designer is actually designing a game, they just want to block out walls and areas and stuff like that. So they don't necessarily need the nicest looking version of a building with textures on it. They just need something to represent, hey, there's a building here. Hey, there's going to be a stairwell over here that goes into the second floor of this building or down in the basement. And then, so you put those things in here to kind of give yourself the layout of the land. But these things already have collisions on them. They're already kind of set up. You don't have to build an artificial representation of a staircase. You just have one here. And then once you get it all blocked out and laid out the way you want it to be, your actual artist or even yourself, you just go back and you say, okay, well, I wanted to replace this with an actual building, so let me, pop that out of there and swap it, and that for a couple bucks, it's got, staged characters and things like that in there, and you get all these different little icons and assets and everything. So even if you get started with something like that, just to grab yourself some prototyping capability, I mean, it's just a fantastic resource, and it'll probably help you out quite a bit. There's nothing real detailed about it. It's all low texture type stuff, all just really for the simple purpose of prototyping. But look at that, 444 unique assets with 10 alternative texture colors, polygon and simple versions of building assets, and $2.50. So there you go. Again, they had the asset bundles in here for those of you who may have joined in late, or whatever. You got the asset bundle packs on here, and when you buy these, you're actually getting an additional 10% off. So that's a really good value for you. And the last thing I told you guys last night, if you saw any of this too, in the YouTube universe here, there's a guy by the name of Beefalo Bart, and Beefalo Bart has a bunch of Synty reviews. So you go into his channel here, go into his videos, and then just hit this little magnifying glass and just type in Synty, and you should see a lot of Synty pack video reviews and how to work with them and all that kind of stuff. Really good stuff if you're just getting started. It's kind of like my thing though. You're gonna listen along. Somebody's gonna pop in, start talking. Maybe we drift a little bit, but we try and help where we can. All right. So thanks again, guys. If you don't have any more questions, I hope that you're getting something out of these videos, and if you're not, You know, I'm sorry for wasting your time. If you have comments, feedback, suggestions, things you'd like to have turned into a more formal tutorial or whatever, feel free to let me know. But again, my name's TC with TC Gaming, and I am signing out for the night. You guys take care, be safe, and I will see you again soon. Take care.